It's been an interesting week, to say the least, man. Let's bring my guy Tone in.
All right, let's do it.
I'm officially with you. I hate Cowboy fans.
Hey, listen, man. They stench of has-beens.
Dude, you're rooting for NFC East when you backed into it. The Eagles were playing their shittiest ball of the year. You're crowing over something I said in February, and you won the East. If that's your crowning achievement,
they got some problems.
You got right. It's like rooting to get to a bowl game instead of going undefeated and winning a national title or going to a You think the Eagles, their objective was to win the East? Their objective was to win the Super Bowl.
Now, I give Dak Prescott credit for this. After that game, after they clinched it, everybody was wearing the hats and they were excited about winning the division. He was like, "Yeah, I'm cool. I want something more." I can respect that mindset, right? Not because he didn't wear the hat, he didn't wear none of the gear. So I respect Dak Prescott for for exercising that level of leadership in that moment. But overall, as a culture, as a fan base, I mean, they're deluded, and every year is their year. So look, man, they won the division. I don't want to come off as the bitter one, so I'll let you do all the cooking.
Oh no, I'm bitter because they gave it to him.
Yeah.
You have to be bitter for that you gave it to them.
Yeah. Look, they did their job, right?
The
Philadelphia Eagles are the ones who dropped the ball.
You think they did their job? What job did they do? Who'd they beat? Okay, they beat a team like Philly who was running out of gas.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Not scared. So who else? What job did they do?
No, I hear you. I'm with you about strength of opponent.
With them.
I'm frustrated too because I have to be okay, or let me not say okay. I have to accept that my Philadelphia Eagles, they didn't live up to their end of the bargain.
I'm not giving
because
them
they were in full control.
I'm not going to do that. I'm sorry. I'm going to be a bitter Dan and go like this. You guys didn't deserve it, and I'm sorry. But if you want to go down, I'm sorry, Tone. I'm not a good sport.
No, you can do that. I can't do that. Okay. I can't.
I'm not a good sport.
Because I'm a fan.
You're a better person than me. You are a wonderful man. You are really with great intangibles. I'm not. I don't like losing. And I am not going to shake your hand because I handed you something.
Yeah.
That's just who I am, Tone. I'm not a very good loser.
I'm with you. I'm not a good loser as well. I'm not a good loser. But
you show me a good winner, I'll show you a waiter.
Yeah, I'm not a good loser. I'm not at all. But you know what? On a side note though, you said something interesting earlier about, what that Buffalo game did to the Eagles, right? And I think what we saw in that game, they squeezed out whatever bit of talent or will they had left in that game. Because that was, in my opinion, I believe that was the best football we've seen Jalen Hurts play all year.
Oh, last drive.
Especially in the second half. The second half, he was surgical. He was surgical in that second half. I've never he that was the sharpest we've seen him all year. So now I'm curious or trying to figure out, was it something Buffalo wasn't doing? Or what was it that he was doing or what was happening that allowed him to be in that moment?
It's an eternal thing. It's nothing to do schematically or any
You think he was just in a flow state? He was just
I think this is a team thing. It's not just him. This is a team thing that those guys how many plays did they play on defense?
95.
Dude. Okay. I'm gonna
and some of those guys also, real quick, some of those guys, because I want to make sure they get they just do. A lot of those guys played on special teams. So Reed Blankenship over 100 snaps.
Hey, dude, some of those guys played like that guy from Colorado.
Yeah, a couple guys played over 100 snaps in that game. Yeah.
Let me say this to you. When you give your guts and soul and that because to me, the Buffalo game is the last game we saw the Eagles play.
With some kind of heart, with some kind of like.
That's the last Eagle game I remember this year.
Yeah, same.
Okay, because the rest of it since then has been horseshit.
Yeah.
And I think then the 49ers completely just finished them off.
Yeah.
And the Cowboy game, they couldn't pick themselves up because they don't have proper leadership in and the coaching staffs. The players are trying to find themselves. All of a sudden, the inexperience at the quarterbacking when it comes to the coaching to try to help Jalen not make, dude, dump it off, dump it off, dump it off, dump it off.
Mhm.
Why is the problem winning a game 10-7? Why do you have a problem, Tone? Or not you, but why the management people in that organization have a problem winning games 3-2? Why do you have a problem winning a game 14-10?
Right.
I don't
17,
give a
14.
shit what
Yeah,
the
I got
score
you.
is
Yeah.
in the game.
Right. Because the real work is in the playoffs. Win the game. The regular season is all about positioning yourself for the playoffs. That's all it's about. Who cares about the style points? Position yourself for the playoffs. Right? Win the game, get the number 1 seed, and then you can get all fancy, all you want in the playoffs. But I agree with you. I think there's there needs to be a reevaluation of how they view football, because it's not a pretty sport. So why are we trying to put makeup on it now all of a sudden? That's the one part about where the NFL is going that I don't like. It's a nasty, it's an ugly, it's a gritty sport, yet they're trying to put eyelashes and makeup on it and nail polish. I'm not a fan of that.
I'm going to criticize you here.
Let's do it.
Stop asking the same damn dumb questions every day. You know what it is. It's the guy
Listen.
upstairs. And you know what? Hey, that's because you did that shit to me yesterday.
You got me back. You got me
because
back.
you did that shit to me yesterday. Stop doing that, dude. Somebody goes, "Hey, Sills, what about Pete?" Dude, shut up.
Ew.
I'm not answering that stuff
live
anymore.
chat. Y'all hear him, man? He got me, man.
Stop doing that. Okay, what has to be checked? As soon as you say what has to be, and the last word is change, you know it.
I know it.
There's
I know.
philosophically changing the way they do business.
But he's done it before. Can he do it again?
This is what this comes down to.
Tone, I asked
that's where it comes down to. It doesn't come down to the coaching.
Listen, I asked D-Gun straight up, do you trust this coaching staff to do the right thing?
I completely did.
He said nope. He said nope. I said, do you trust the? Nope. I don't trust. I think everybody's
gone. As much as I respect him, I disagree with him that stuff. He doesn't want to put it on management. I do.
Yeah, I think we disagree with that. Well, I disagree with that as well. Because when he said it, I kind of was like, oh, okay.
With respect.
Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, it's just sports talk. No one's killing anybody. It's just we just disagree, and we should be able to disagree. We should be able to disagree as adults, and and this is the thing about the Philadelphia Eagles, right? Their issues are so entrenched. You have a hard time pinpointing where the source really is, and here's the reality though. I don't think anybody is really wrong.
To this, everyone, go ahead, keep going.
Yeah.
You have a tough time pinpointing this.
No, hear me out.
I'm gonna take my glasses off for this.
I don't think anybody is wrong in who they point the finger at, right? I think the issue becomes who should wear the most of it. And I think that's where people disagree with, because I think the front office has to wear a lot of this. I think the coach staff has to wear a lot of this. I also think the players got to wear a lot of this too. So, I mean, everybody has their own perspective of how they want to, displace the blame. But I always got to start from the top.
Okay, well, let me ask you something here. Say we're in a Spanish galleon, and you have a whip, and I'm rowing with the rest of my crew, and you're whipping me and whipping me and whipping me, and all you're doing is leading me into troubled waters and into a position where we're going to sink, burn, or die. Comes a point where and my guys are going to jump out of the galleon and go get the guy with the whip.
I hear you.
Okay, because when you're whipping us, you're leading us. Those players don't want to be led by what's being told to them.
And that's where I'm at with it. I believe they've completely checked out of the message that's being taught. That's why I have a hard time believing that Nick Sirianni should be here next year. because I don't believe you get something like that back. That's just me.
Hire a doorman. I don't care who you hire. It'll be the same guy. He's a doorman. I mean, he's a doorman. I mean, it's classic. Well, hey, I had people actually in New York go, Sills, don't you think Vrabel would be? And I go, let me hook you up with something. You've got to think of the meekest person you can find. You've got to go to like a CPA down on Wall Street or over in the Diamond District in New York, and you got to find a guy down in that neck of the woods who understands how to manage businesses and doesn't really know anything about football because they don't want football people. I go, no, they don't have football people in there now.
Yeah, it's
I'm sick. I'm not going to have any of these conversations about, well, dude, do you think this coach here? Look, let me show you this, and I think this is a great example. So Wink Martindale had a problem with 2 assistants that were fired.
Yeah, I heard about that.
And I'll tell you what, he goes in there and he told the guy to go fuck himself, and they had an argument and they were screaming at one another. So Dable fired him. There's ego. You know what I would have did if I was Dable? I would have tried to keep one of the best coordinators in the NFL in the building and tried to compromise, because to me, that's how you hurt your team. So what are you going to do? Hire a lesser coordinator? Man, that's a dumb move. Wink Martindale needs better talent around him. And you don't fire the coaches. And you know what? Dirt shows you there. Wink Martindale had say in the hirings of his assistants. And when Nick did not defend Desai, I knew right there he didn't hire him. There's a difference in how you look at coaching. Wink Martindale was hired by the organization and not by Dable. Okay? And that's why in November they had a conflict. Wink Martindale brought all his assistants in.
Right.
Okay? That's coaching. He brings a philosophy in. He brings his style of coaching in. He brings his assistants in. Dable didn't like it because you know why? He didn't hire him. Well, guess what? When you get a good coordinator in the room, he wants his folks in the room. He ain't going to take plug and play. That's the problem in Philly. It's plug and play. I've been saying that for 3 years. It's plug and play. You can't run systems like that, Tone. If you hire a quality, hey, what? Sean Desai may go somewhere and be a great coordinator and implement his own Fangio type system and may go somewhere and be a big blitzer. And you may look at it and go, damn, that guy's doing shit. Like when I watch Gannon blitzing the Eagles, I'm like, he wasn't doing that shit here.
That's why Denard Wilson is not here, because Denard Wilson wanted to throw some curveballs in the situation. And you know, Howie and those boys ain't having that. Like you said, we know the answers to these. We know the answer to this test already. Denard Wilson, he would have been perfect for this team. They had him in the building. You know, he was one of the first on the roster. You know, with Nick and all those boys, he was here. Just how you elevated Brian Johnson, you could have elevated Denard. But here's the difference: Brian Johnson agreed to play ball. Denard agreed not to, and that's why one is here and one is not.
I don't know if he did not. I don't know if he did not want to play ball. They assumed he didn't want to by his interview.
Yeah, let's frame it that way, because I think that's more friendly on his side.
Did Carroll just get fired?
Do I think he just got fired?
No. Did Carroll just get fired?
Well, it was reported by Adam Schefter that, he's going to be out.
Okay.
It says here, Pete Carroll out in Seattle. Seahawks likely to. It says Dan Quinn is a strong candidate to return to Seattle as the head coach.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And that's via Ian Rappaport.
Yeah, because the Allen family likes him.
Yeah, he was there at one point.
Yep. So he created the Legion of Boom. But get this. So you replace Pete Carroll with Pete Carroll's assistant. What are you going to get different? It's the same guy. Is Pete just doing this because he's going to because he's 72 years old?
Yeah. How old is Pete Carroll? Let's find out. I think I know he's in his 70s. He's 72 years old. Yep.
Okay, you're 72 years old, dude. I mean, where are we going here? How many years do you think he's got left? 6? I mean, who do you think he's Biden? I mean, he's not gonna coach until he's 80.
Oh, you crazy, man.
After a while, Pete Carroll will be looking for a ramp like Biden. I'm kidding. I digress. Go ahead.
Hey, listen, Pete Carroll does a good job of making sure he's well medicated.
I'll tell you what. So you think he dips on the Ginja and he's got a hookah? All right.
Hey, listen.
Here's a Pete Carroll meeting. Give me that hookah, man. Yeah, I think we should run that Banjo 6.
hey, think about all the places he's coached. He's coached in California and Seattle. he makes sure them laws.
Are you saying he was a drinker in Boston?
All I'm saying is Pete Carroll knows what to do to keep himself limber, keep himself nice and calm, man. It's a reason he's been able to do this job until the 70s. No stress, baby.
I gotta thank somebody. I mean, hey, congratulations, Jim Schwartz, for being the NFL assistant of the year. And,
for real?
Congratulations. Yeah, he's been named the NFL assistant of the year. Tone, help me out. Wasn't he a coordinator somewhere when they won a Super Bowl? Where was that?
Yeah, I think that was Philadelphia.
Why did he leave?
Personalities clash. You know how that goes. You know how that goes, man.
Hey, who left? Did Schwartz leave first or did Doug?
Schwartz left first.
Doug told him.
Yeah, I think that's how that happened, if I'm not mistaken.
So why didn't he offer him the job?
Because
it'd be like hiring Doug.
Wait, do you mean like how come he didn't offer who the job?
How come the Eagles didn't offer Jim Schwartz the job? He was a coach in Detroit.
Oh, you mean like another DC job or the head?
Why didn't he offer him the head coaching job?
Because Jim Schwartz, he was. I mean, it is Detroit, and Detroit is hard to turn around. But he was in Detroit for how long? 3 years, 4 years, and that didn't really work out.
I thought he was there like 4 years.
Yeah, it didn't really look too well on that side of things. So that kind of thing stains you.
Oh, wait a minute. So wait, Schwartz doesn't look good in Detroit. Sirianni's got a great record, but he's your guy, right?
That's not what I said.
All right, let's just keep it score here.
It's not what I said.
I just want to make sure we're being fair here.
I'm only saying Jim Schwartz, he was a head coach at one point. He hasn't had a head coaching opportunity since. Maybe that's by design. Maybe that's by choice. I don't know.
Your Honor.
But I'm also giving him a break because it's Detroit. And no one was able to turn around Detroit around that time. So,
Your Honor, I move on.
Yes, sir.
All right. Hey, so Mike McCarthy in the last 3 years is 36-15, 1-2. Got a Super Bowl win in his past.
Mm-hmm.
Your boy is 34-17, 2-2, and it just comes off a Super Bowl appearance. Mike McCarthy's job's on the line. Why shouldn't Nick's?
I think Nick's job is on the line, though. It should be, in my opinion. I never said it wasn't. I'm a firm believer that if he drops this Buccaneers game, he needs to have to put it nicely, he needs to go through a strong evaluation. But I think his job is on the line wholeheartedly. I believe that. You just know where you collapse the way you did over these past several weeks and think your job shouldn't be in question. Right? All the things that's been coming out of that locker room, all the mishandlings of personnel, coaching decisions. It's just been a hot mess all across the board under his watch. And although he's just the mouthpiece, he still has to wear it. I look at him as a guy who Jalen Hurts has taken a step back. Why? I'm looking at you. Why Jalen Hurts still hasn't responded to the blitz? Why haven't you as a coaching staff responded to the blitz? I don't understand. You have game plans and you have so much film and you know what's coming, yet you can't come up with a solution. That's been my biggest problem with Nick Sirianni. Too many Monday morning, Tuesday morning quarterbacking and coaching, and not enough game day decision making. So I'm looking at Nick Sirianni as a guy who doesn't have the answers, and I think when you don't have the answers, you don't deserve to have the job.
We know this.
We know this. Folks. No, it's all good.
No, and you know what? It's almost like being disappointed.
It's like Groundhog Day.
But it's being also going like this. No, can't be. No. Holy shit, it is.
Mm-hmm.
The guy is really you know what? How much of a disappointment at the end of the Wentz story was the Wentz story for Eagle fans?
Huge disappointment. Especially when you
because he took you on these swings, right?
Yeah. He gave you he gave you moments where you believed. He gave you moments where you turned against him. So it was
Boy, you had every emotion there.
being a Carson Wentz defender or apologist, however you want to describe it.
But you did the right thing because he was playing great early.
I felt like he always had it in him, just needed the right situation. And, evidently it doesn't matter the situation. Carson Wentz is just a guy who just can't get out of his own way right now.
Like Nick.
Like Nick right now, yeah. Like Nick.
So is it an organization?
Because I feel, actually, as a matter of fact, I feel like Carson got a bad shake in Indy. He could have bounced back in Indy. He could have.
He had 27 touchdowns and 7 picks, and he threw 67%, 3,900 yards. I thought he had a great year.
Indy was his last.
He was.
I feel like he got a bad shake in Indy.
Coached correctly. I mean, I don't get why. See, and look, you go to Irsay and then and Tepper. I mean, Frank Reich. Holy cow, man! You couldn't have gone to 2 bigger idiots. Oh no, you could have went to another one. You could have went to Daniel Snyder. That would have been an even bigger idiot. Yeah. But I mean, you're talking about job. Look, it's funny. It's like black coaches in college. They always get the shitty jobs.
Yeah, that's true.
Certain guys have to take these jobs with these shitty owners because if you ever notice, the real great jobs don't come open.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't get to coach the Steelers. You know what I mean? Like the Steeler job never comes open.
Oh, I'm glad. Oh, okay. I'm glad you went there. With Vrabel being out in Tennessee, with Pete Carroll being out in Seattle, that completely altered the head coaching market beyond belief because those are 2 teams we didn't expect.
Why do you think they're doing this? Why
do you think teams? No, I want to ask you. What do you think is the most attractive job in the NFL right now? Because there's Seattle, there's Tennessee, there's Atlanta,
New England.
There's the Chargers, there's the Commanders, the the Patriots. There's about 7. There's going to be about 7 or 8 jobs. The Carolina job, the Raiders job is still technically up in the air. There's about 10 jobs available right now. What do you think is the most attractive situation for a head coach?
Okay.
We don't know about the Philly job. That might be. We don't know.
Okay.
That might be up in the air too. So.
Ask yourself first the most important thing. Who's the best owner of those guys? Start there. Tone, start with leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Don't start with the logo.
Right.
Don't start. Okay, let's take a look at this. You think Bob Kraft's a good guy to work for?
Yes.
Okay. Is Josh Harris?
No.
Okay. Arthur Blank?
That's the Atlanta guy, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I work for him.
I think he'll do whatever it takes. They were almost got Deshaun Watson if it wasn't for the extortion bag that was handed in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Seattle has great management.
Mm-hmm.
I like that job.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the Tennessee job.
I don't like it either.
Okay, if you can make shitty decisions on the GM, the head coach, and getting rid of A.J. Brown, and you're going to dump Derrick Henry, I mean, okay, so you're going to start over. Well, you need a very young guy in there. Okay, you need a very young guy. Carolina, I would never take that job.
No, I would never take that job.
It's not that David Tepper isn't a bad guy to work for. He's so a hedge fund guy. I worked on Wall Street. Hedge fund guys, you got to remember
his perspective is his perspective is
day trading.
Is skewed. He's approaching his day trading mindset.
He's not a long-term investment guy. He's a day trader, which means this: he trades daily. Okay, he trades on the stock market daily. Okay, he flip-flops in and out of stocks daily. Long-term investors, those are guys that put that. A hedge fund is 100 different stocks in one thing. Right. And so he flips in and out of stocks for the hedge fund. You're investing in the hedge fund.
Well, he's in the wrong business because the NFL is a long-term investment kind of thing. And he's approaching it with the wrong mindset.
Because you have to build core. That's why Howie can't and again, the Eagle job. Do I think the Eagle job is a good job? Yes and no.
The Eagle job might be the most complex job if it's ever available.
That's a very good description.
It's complex.
It's because their pitch would be this. Hey, you come here. We've never had a losing coach since the guys owned the team.
And it's like and also you say to yourself, they want to win, but do they really? Like you don't really like. It's
they
like
want to win their way.
They want to win, but they want to win their way. And that's the question you have to ask yourself if you're ever thinking about going to that job. Am I willing to concede in some kind of way? Or
That's right, Mike.
Or in those conversations, you ask them, okay, you guys have done it this way for X amount of years. What has it got you? One Super Bowl in 30 years. Don't you think it's time we shift the narrative?
Yeah. Don't go in there in that interview.
No, I'm not saying you go in there saying that.
Oh,
but what I'm saying,
they'll escort you. Hey, they'll escort you.
They'll escort your dumb ass
out. They won't
out.
even put you on an airplane. They'll put you on a bus.
Yo, they put you on the mega bus, a Greyhound or some shit.
Yeah.
But I think that's the kind of thinking that needs to go on right now. How have we been doing this for the past 10 years? Let's just say that 10 years. How have we been doing this? We got one Super Bowl in the past 10 years, 2 appearances in the past 10 years.
Which is very good.
Perspective. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
Compared to the Cowboys.
Yeah, that's true too. Again, perspective. So
compared to anybody else in the NFC East.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. If you had to have a job, would you rather coach?
You're going to be shocked.
Would you rather coach the Chargers under that ownership group, or would you rather take a chance on the Raiders in that ownership group?
I don't want any
and potentially find your quarterback in the draft.
I don't like any of those two guys, and I'm going to tell you why.
But you got to choose though.
Okay,
you got to pick one.
I covered the Chargers for 6 years, and I worked for the Raiders. I do believe Mark Davis wants to win. I just don't think he's found the right management people to help him and personnel. Remember something. What turned the tide for the Raiders? Do you know at one time the Raiders had the highest win percentage of any team in the National Football League?
There were a point when they were legendary, and they just kind of
a point where they lost like one game on Monday night, and then what happened? And I had a conversation with Al with this. Al, instead of fighting games on the field, started fighting the NFL in the courtroom. And once he went to the courtroom, it changed the narrative of the Eagles, or it changed the narrative of the Raiders.
Right.
Either going to Hollywood Park, going to Vegas, going to Oakland, Los Angeles. That whole circus took its toll on the franchise, and it wobbled. And I thought Al spent too much time. And I talked to Amy Trask about this in the courtroom, and it affected them. They took a shitty deal in Oakland to go back. It was a terrible deal. And I just think Mark is trying to search. I have Mark. I talk to him occasionally, and I've known him a long time. I just think that he's a young owner. He's trying to find his way.
Yeah.
But he needs. His dad had Ken Herrick.
Would you frame it like this? A guy who wants to win, but he just doesn't know what he's doing. Like he's well intentioned, is what I'm saying. He's well intentioned.
He's trying to be his dad.
He's well intentioned, but he just doesn't know what he's doing.
It's like the Steinbrenners trying to be George
instead of carving out his own lane.
Yeah.
He's trying to follow an old blueprint.
He's trying to follow he's trying to follow the legacy of the father. Like, look at the Buss family. You think Jeannie and the brother are anything near Jerry Buss?
No.
I mean,
Jeannie's trying, but
look at it. I mean, when the Lakers under Jerry Buss, you had Jerry West, you had Mitch Kupchak. Those guys were legendary talent evaluators.
You know what happened? I think from going from Jerry to the kids, it became too many voices.
Completely.
And that's where it normally goes wrong, when you have too many opinions.
Look what you did to Kobe in the end. You had the worst losing years since they moved from Minneapolis in his last 2 years.
It was bad. It was rough.
For Kobe to go out like that was atrocious. So, and the Spanos family, the Spanos family, do you know they're the only football team in the NFL that doesn't own their own building or have a half of a percentage? They pay $1 a year to Stan Kroenke in rent. And Kroenke gets all the benefits in parking and in concessions for the SoFi Stadium. So they're kind of renters. Dude, they don't even own their own building. And you sit there and you're like, okay, well, they can't even make that decision. They moved the team just to increase the value of the team, which is a smart move. But you should have stayed in San Diego. On top of that, what have you done with Phillip Rivers and Justin Herbert? I mean, do you understand they went to a Super Bowl with a guy named Stan Humphries? Okay, I mean, you've got two guys that are probably going to, I mean, Herbert's got Hall of Fame talent. Rivers is going to be debated on a Hall of Fame career. And you did nothing with those guys because why? You put too much ownership in management and you allowed management. Now, they fired management. I think the Spanos family's changing. And I'll tell you why. I think a lot of these organizations are completely cleaning house.
A lot of them are, right? It seems like a lot of them are just.
Because I think they're trying to attract Jim Harbaugh.
Interesting. You think a lot of those teams are really?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Or Vrabel. Vrabel's going to want control. And I have no problem.
Okay, let's stay there, right? We talked about the jobs, right? Let's talk about the candidates. You got Vrabel out there. You got Harbaugh potentially out there. You got Ben Johnson potentially out there. You got Wilkes out there. You got Belichick potentially out there. I don't think Tomlin's going anywhere.
I'll tell you here.
I don't think he is.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. In the next 5 years, you see the Steelers in the Super Bowl?
I'm glad you said that. Based off of what he's been able to achieve up to a point, I feel like they need a quarterback. Now, the real question is, will they have a quarterback in that time that can give you that feeling of,
They just missed on Pickett.
And they missed on that. I think they just missed on Pickett. I firmly believe that the Steelers are a quarterback away from being a threat in their division and in their conference. I believe that.
So I do too. Yeah. I think they got to get to me, if I'm the Steelers and I want to keep Mike Tomlin, I make a trade for Russell Wilson.
They made the playoffs in that conference, in that division, with no quarterback.
I would make a trade for Russell Wilson.
Rob brought that up earlier. And I said, and I said, is that in the Rooney's nature to take on a contract like that? And
you want to keep Tomlin?
That's a good
point.
Because
Tomlin could just go like this. I'm gonna go where I am with Mason Rudolph and with Mitch Trubisky and with all these other guys.
How involved is Tomlin in the front office decisions as far as like personnel, quarterback? Because I feel like
they do work with him.
Yeah, I feel like they work with him, but I also feel like he lets them do their job.
They do. He does.
Okay.
I got a bunch of friends in that organization. Carl Dunbar, the D-line coach, and Alfredo Roberts, the tight end coach, who I played with at Miami. And I talked to him. Alfredo's a dear friend of mine, and he doesn't think Tomlin's going anywhere either.
Yeah, I don't think so.
If he does, he thinks Tomlin would take the year off and go into TV.
They need him. Think about it. They need him.
I think personally, if Mike Tomlin decided to go into TV, he'd be the next John Madden.
He'll have a lot of quotables. He'll have a lot of them.
I think he would be the next John Madden.
I think he loves the game.
You imagine him talking the way he does about never letting go of the rope and talking like that on TV and how quick-witted he is. He's a quick-witted guy, man. I think he would be spectacular in the booth. You put him with somebody, man, it sets him up and tees him up. I think he would be the next John Madden.
But for all those reasons you said, I feel like all those traits make him a great head coach. I just can't imagine him leaving. I can't imagine him coaching anywhere else. He's still a very young guy, too. How old is Tomlin? 50?
50 something.
Like, I got to find out now.
Isn't that crazy, though, Tone? That stat I keep bringing up.
He's 51.
Oh, shit. He's got another 20
He's not going to.
years.
He can coach for another 15 years if he wanted to. Easily.
20.
You know what I mean?
These coaches are going to their separate. Andy Reid, 66 right now.
So I look at Mike Tomlin as a guy who knows how to win. He just needs a quarterback. He knows what to do. He's managed to get this team to the playoffs, or at least 9-8 or 9-7, however the record lines up. He's managed to keep them in the mix for a playoff spot every single year in that conference, in that division. Give them a quarterback. I bet you they're competing for an AFC title.
Let me tell you this, and people completely disagree because it's taking a shit on the one guy out the door. And I personally think that the New England job is the best job because of Bob Kraft. I think Bob Kraft would bring a guy in and give him all the things he needed to be successful in winning. And Bob has a formula for winning. Remember, he won before Belichick got there.
And also the
Parcells
New England job.
was there.
Also, I think the New England job has a bad stigma on it. When in reality, I think that job might be the most attractive for everything you mentioned, right? You know, when people think of New England, they think of Tom Brady, they think of Belichick, right? But if you're taking that job, all their philosophies and everything like that go with them. You have an opportunity to set a new way, a new Patriot way.
There's only one guy that would be the guy that could go up there and do that job. It's Harbaugh. And I'll tell you why.
You think Harbaugh fits better in New England than
any other place? And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
You're replacing a legend. And when you're replacing a legend, when Jimmy Johnson replaced Tom Landry, you weren't just going to put some nobody guy in there and replace Tom Landry. You had to have a guy that had some type of success. And Jimmy walked in there and replaced, Jimmy Johnson just didn't replace Tom Landry. He replaced Don Shula.
Right.
I mean,
Miami, right?
Yeah, you have to have somebody in the building that people are going to automatically. And by the way, Jim Harbaugh has success in the NFL. So what they would do now, and he is a guy that is a Bill Belichick kind of knockoff. He wants control. He wants autonomy. He wants control of the personnel. They're going to give it to him because that's how Kraft runs his organization. Other places, like Jim Harbaugh would be horrible in Philly. Jim Harbaugh would be horrible in Carolina.
Okay, so
horrible.
So let me
in Tennessee.
So let me ask you this then, right? Because I want to bring it full circle to the Eagles, and I'm glad you said what you said. I don't think Harbaugh would fit in Philadelphia either because of their front office dynamic and ownership. But that begs the question: is it possible for them to bring in anybody with some kind of credibility and still, I guess, do things the way they've done them? Is it possible for them to bring in anybody with any kind of credibility, knowing what we know now?
Think of a coach. You need to think of somebody like McVay. Somebody like that works with Les Snead, Kevin Demoff, trusts them, and then get this. Remember something. McVay didn't hire Wade Phillips, but he recommended him. Okay? And Kyle Shanahan runs the offense. D'Amico Ryans and Steve Wilkes run the defense. He's got to have say so that he doesn't feel threatened that side of the football is being – see, here's what you have, Tone. And I didn't realize it until right now. The Eagles only give credence and only give accountability to the offensive side of the ball. Financially, coaching-wise, their only priorities are offensive side. Because if you think about it, their defensive side is sporadically touched with a few draft choices and no money and very little draft choices, and they really don't have that side of the ball as a priority. Their priority is completely on offense. Coaching-wise, money-wise, scheme-wise, the entire system over there on that side of the ball has to be revamped every other year. And that's why the Jeff Kerr comment that said that they can't sustain stability on that side of the ball, it directly goes to exactly what I'm saying. The number one priority in Philly is on the offensive side of the football. And get this, in Los Angeles, Sean McVay has Raheem Morris. Take care of it. It's yours. Go ahead. If something happens, he's going to step in and say something with the higher-ups. But he leaves these guys alone, but he feels comfortable and trusts them because he made that hire. So you have to have – for the Eagles to maintain and try to maintain success, they've got to give a little bit more, man.
They got to give a little more. Listen, you got to give a little to get a little, right?
If you want a really good coach, Tone,
you
can't
can't control
give up a little.
Yeah, exactly. And do you think, I'm glad you said that specifically, you got to give a little. Is Howie Roseman capable of giving little, in your opinion? If Jeffrey brings the hammer down
by the Bucs, that's going to it won't wobble Jeffrey Lurie, but what he will see, he'll see a company that there was no reason for the stock to go down.
Because listen to this, right? We're covering this week in and week out, day in and day out. They listen. They hear everybody talking. Best believe they know the narratives that are being spun right now. They're gonna, and they have a PR department for a reason. All this that we're talking about, they're gonna come up in those meetings. Watch, they will.
Oh, I know, and I know they watch this. That leads me to this final topic here for you. You think they've changed their opinion on Hurts? Now, and what I mean by that is, or do you think they're going to reserve? Because look, we mentioned it yesterday. Mm-hmm. Well, shit, the narrative on Lamar Jackson changed in 1 year. Why wouldn't it change in Philly in 1 year? I mean, you'd only be an idiot to go, I still think of him as the same way in 2022 as I do in 2023 right now. I mean, you'd be crazy to think that. You didn't think that way about Wentz. You changed your narrative on him in 3 years, completely changed it. So they have shown that they have changed their opinion on a guy in the past, and everyone else has when it comes to player performance.
It took them, remember what you said, though. It took them 3 years to change their opinion on him, though. Because remember, they paid him even after the injuries. So,
you think they're going to give Jalen Hurts more time to turn himself around than they gave Wentz?
No. What I'm saying is, what I'm saying is, I'm saying Wentz. What I'm saying is, I'm saying Wentz got paid. Remember, he didn't get paid in 2017 or 20. I think he got the contract in 2019, right? So, in paying him, they're signifying their faith in this guy turning around. They paid him like 2 years later, you know, and they ended up trading him with that contract, and they had to take the cap hit. But my point is, overall, though, when Wentz went through his struggles, they still ended up paying him, even after the 2018 season. Remember, he came back late. He didn't, and then he couldn't finish the season. Nick Foles takes you to the playoffs again, loses in the divisional round to the Saints. They still paid Wentz after that fact. So they clearly gave him the latitude to figure it out. I think Jalen Hurts experiencing this rough patch in his career, I think they haven't fully jumped ship on what they can.
What I would say is this: they made a mistake in not franchise tagging that guy.
You can from a pure.
I think they should have franchise tagged Hurts.
And this is the part of the conversation where Eagles fans get sensitive.
Yeah, I think they should have franchise tagged Hurts.
Because remember, this year is the last year of his rookie deal. So the new contract kicks in March. So what they should have, based on what you said, they would have had to franchise tag him sometime this year, so they can have him the following season.
I'd have franchise tagged him. Why, you did Dak 3 years or 2 years, whatever it was.
Right. I mean, you bring up an interesting point, right? Why did they feel the need that they had to pay him outright so quickly? Why? It's a fair question, because what did he show you that you haven't seen?
If you gave me 2 great years, it's justified. If you give me 3 different years, it's not.
And I see when you say 3 different years.
Tone, watch this. It's not all on him. It's the culture. It's the changing of the coordinators. You had so many dynamics change around him. You had more dynamics change around him in 23 than any time in his career since he had to transfer.
I'll put it to you this way. I felt like more changes have happened around him than with him. You know,
completely.
in my opinion, I don't look at it as 3 different years. I look at it as he got his first start in 2021. He showed you a baseline of what he is. 2022, he improved. So I look at that as I look at that as point A to point B, an arc, a growth, right? I don't look at Jalen Hurts as a bar graph. I look at him as a line graph, right? So he came in 2021, okay, this is what he is. 2022, he goes up. 2023, he takes a little step back with the turnovers. Everything else is still on par. Completion percentage is the same, a little bit more yards, a little bit more touchdowns. Team is in the playoffs. The turnovers are where the step back come in.
Okay.
And
That's all.
It is a huge
That's
blemish.
all great, but don't you think that if you franchise tagged the kid, you could have spent some of that money on TJ, CJ? You could have done more things with the money instead of having to sit there and rob Peter to pay Paul when March 17th hits and that 50 kicks in. You had him on a franchise, and guess what? People would be bitching. You should have paid him this and that. Hey, fuck that noise. I don't care. I'm talking about building a roster here. I'm not talking about making a guy feel better about himself. It's about winning a football game and being a football team that builds stability. There lies the difference right there because, in my opinion, he gutted the defense because of the contract that he paid Hurts when it kicks in for the new calendar year. And that's why that football team on that side has trash cans at almost every position and old dudes. And that's what they did. They neglected that side of the ball.
It's a fair assessment. You know, I wouldn't disagree with you pretty much at all. They did neglect that side of the ball and heading into the 2023 season. You know, there's a narrative out there like, you know, you have to pay these guys, right? You have to pay them. You got to pay them. And yeah, that's true to a point. At the end of the day, no one has to make you do anything.
When I have the leverage, I don't have to pay you anything.
Right. And then that begs the question, who at that time had the most leverage, the organization or the player?
Organization, they have the tag. You can't do anything. You want to hold out? Go ahead. Guess what? You don't get your calendar doesn't start because you hold out. Your calendar starts when you're active. So they can sit there and hold your ass out. And by the way, when's the last guy you ever seen NFL quarterback hold out, even with a tag or even with a new contract? When's the last quarterback hold out?
I'm not even sure. I can't even think back. I don't know.
Okay, that's right. Because you know why? The tag's like what, 30?
Yeah, so like
so he went from 1.5 to 30. Gee, okay.
No, I hear you. So I mean, it's definitely something. I mean, at this point, what's done is done, but it's definitely something, you know, to look back on and wonder if they jumped the gun.
I said from day one when they gave him that money after 17 great games, I said, "Are you sure?" And if you remember some of the topics I had at the beginning of the year, I went, "Do you think they jumped the gun and gave him the money too soon?" No, I don't. Okay, well, when you had the ability to franchise, and I think this goes back to your conversation, like you said. I think this is interesting because no one talks about the Eagles missing on the franchise tag with the kid. Think about what you could have did with that tag for at least maybe even a year. You could have re-signed TJ. You could have put some more money on that side. Now, to what you said to me 2 days ago, Sills, do you think they would have put that money on that side of the ball anyway? That is the million-dollar question as well. Would they have spent that money?
Right.
Would they? And quite frankly, the Bradbury thing didn't pan out. The Slay money, not awful.
And Oscar, let me ask you this, right? Here's another thing too that gets tricky for these, ownership groups, right? They look at it as projecting, because when they signed into that contract, they saw the growth from year 1 to year 2 and they fell in love with it. And I completely understand that, right? So they looked at it as, okay, if he's on this trajectory, this price tag can only go up from here. Let's buy it for the market. Buy low.
It's probably what they did.
And that's probably that's probably how they thought about it. They looked at it as the price tag is going to become something that we really don't want to pay.
Because if he puts a 22 season with 23 on a tag, they'd have to pay him 60.
It would have got out of hand. So I think they looked at it as, let's bank on the growth that we already saw, and get the contract as team friendly as possible.
You're not evaluating the player on production. You're evaluating the player like you did with Wentz
on potential
growth. instead of what a play. I mean, and then get this. Here's what made that. Here's maybe what have made it even more sense. Okay, you pay him. Well, shit, Tone. Go get me Todd Monken. Why?
I think that's where the missteps happen. I don't even think Hurts' contract is their biggest mistake.
It's not, but when you put
I think the mistake is the coaches. That's the mistakes.
But wait, when you put the inexperienced coach and the money together,
it doesn't it makes no sense when you You're absolutely right. When you invest something like that into a person, you have to make sure you create the ecosystem for that investment to, provide a return. And when you put inexperienced people around your young quarterback, who's, in all fairness, still is relatively a project, you're kind of burning you're pissing on your money. You know what I'm saying?
Why would you have a $50 million quarterback and a $5 coordinator?
Exactly. You put $50 million into a player, but you surround him with the least experienced teachers.
A doorman.
Makes no sense to me. Makes no sense.
See, and then that affects the money look. That's when you go this.
It affects how you look at the money. It affects the quarterback. It affects the player.
Remember, Tone, in the NFL, you start always with the money, and then you go to the quarterback. It's money, quarterback, and balancing a salary cap. You got to balance a salary cap. That's why the one thing that the Patriots always were classic at, and I always said this about them, they made the tough moves and the tough cuts, got rid of guys like Richard Seymour, like Darrelle Revis, got rid of Moss, got rid of all those guys, and it produced 6 Super Bowls because they could have a balanced salary cap. They never were without a balanced salary cap until the last 3 years of Brady's run. And then now it's been affected because they don't have the quarterback play. I mean, the whole thing plays a factor now.
Yeah, it all matters. Money. Yeah, it all matters. But here's the thing.
That's Howie.
We all, I hate to focus on the things that we can't change, right? I want to focus on the prospects of the things that could possibly change.
They're practicing the same philosophy they did with Wentz. They rushed the gun. They could have franchise tagged Wentz a couple times too.
Well, here's the luxury they had with Wentz. And
he was hurt.
They had the 5th-year option. They had the luxury of waiting. They didn't.
So they had a 5th-year option, and they had the tag, and they're paying him coming off of a knee injury and coming off of a season where Foles finished it again. I would have never given that guy a max deal.
You know what it proves, if anything? It proves that Howie Roseman is watching how the money moves rather than how the talent moves.
And that's why the defense is in the shape it's in.
Because he cares more about making sure the money makes sense rather than if the decision itself makes sense.
And the priorities on offense, because that's what the owner wants.
Bada bing, bada boom.
And you look at it, and you look over on the other side of the football, and you go like this. Okay, well, what will change this offseason? Okay. I mean, do you understand you're going to have to change that entire football team out, that defense?
Oh, I think people are underestimating what the overhaul this defense needs. This defense is going to have to get gutted.
80% of that defense has to be changed.
Completely. And for the record, I don't have a problem with Hurts getting paid. It is what it is.
Too soon.
I mean, I think that's a fair statement. I don't think that's a far-fetched or a blasphemous thing to even consider.
They waited on Lamar.
Oh yeah, I understand. Again, I don't think it's blasphemous for you to even have that opinion. I think it's a fair opinion. Me ultimately, I roll with it because I'm ultimately a fan too. So, I roll with it.
Me, I want to see consistent play for a couple of years before I'm going to sit there and make an assessment on whether my manager or my coach or my quarterback is truly going to be able to win me a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, if I'm the owner, I've got to look at the people surrounding him and what they're surrounding him with. This is a failure by the owner also, not to have quality people that will put quality people in positions of success. Dude, the Baltimore Ravens are a superior franchise to the Philadelphia Eagles because why? When in doubt, that owner, those general managers, Eric DaCosta and Ozzie, are going to put the most qualified people in the building. They weren't going to go through a shit show like they did last year. Number 1 seed in the AFC, quarterback's an MVP, and they're going to make a run at a Super Bowl.
Yeah, man. I look at the Philadelphia Eagles as a team where, at this point, in my humble opinion, where they can salvage any of this, they had to do what they had to do what they didn't do for Wentz, and that's make every decision with him in mind. They had when it comes to Jalen Hurts, they have to make every decision with him in mind.
Firing Doug was not in the best interest of Wentz.
There was a lot of there were rumors that Wentz and I don't know how true they are. Just want to make that clear. But there were rumors that Wentz and Doug, were they had division or so on and so forth.
I'm sure at the end everyone was bitching.
Right. And during times like that, everybody has a problem with everybody.
Everyone's looking for a life preserver at the end.
Exactly. So that was just a rough situation, in totality.
Do you think people are looking for life preservers now?
No, because here's the difference. There's a lot of guys who got their money and they're secure. So I don't from a player standpoint, no. From maybe a coaching standpoint, maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
Why are the coaches more worried than the players? That's a problem for me. Every player should fear for his job every day he goes to work. What do you think?
I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. I'm just trying to answer your question the best way I know how.
I got it.
Ultimately, I just feel like when we look at this team,
I think I'm not attacking you.
No, I know you're not. Because I actively think about all this stuff, right? I'm not someone who's married to my opinions. If someone has said something that piques my my fancy, I'll say, oh, that's interesting. Let me consider that.
Smartest thing you can do.
You know what I'm saying?
Smartest thing you can do.
I learned that pretty early. Not to marry myself to my opinions. That's how you get in trouble.
Yep.
So, ultimately, I think, and we could close it on this note because I know we got Farzi in a couple minutes. Every decision they make,
I'm going to ask him about that franchise
has to be held with Jalen Hurts in mind, and I'll leave it at that. Jalen Hurts has to be priority number 1.
Do you think Monday's game matters at all in any way?
Yes.
How the reshaping of the team will be in the offseason? Like, if they get to an NFC title game, do you think that will kind of like slow them up on changing direction?
That's a good question. I don't know. That's a good question, Sills. Monday means a lot. Monday means a lot because I think it determines who stays and who goes. That's what I think. I think it's important for that simple reason.
You don't think that writing's on the wall?
No, yeah, for sure. I think Nick Sirianni is coaching.
Well, so you think that may expedite it more?
I think Nick Sirianni is coaching for his job on Monday.
Remember what I told you yesterday, though.
Mm-hmm.
Remember what I told you yesterday. If they fire Nick Sirianni, that is the beginning of the end of Howie.
Because we talked about this. Because
that's his safety net.
What GM have we seen survive 3 or 4 or 5 different head coaches? Who we seen it? We've never seen it before. So he'll be reaching dangerous territory if Nick Sirianni goes. It's a possibility. It's something to consider. So
you think this game on Monday has it could expedite decision making? How about this? Mm-hmm. Do you think the Monday game has more to do with the involvement of the owner than the involvement of the GM?
Do I think the Monday game has more to do with the involvement?
Monday's a disaster.
Right. If it's a disaster,
the owner steps in.
Correct.
If the game is competitive, they win or they barely lose? Is it still the GM's call?
I put it to you this way. I think the owner steps in regardless because they shouldn't even be in this situation. That's how I look at it. I think he steps in regardless.
He stepped in and Kansas City.
I think that one was more Howie, but I feel you though.
You think Howie Roseman's firing coordinators without telling?
No, I'm not saying he's not telling them, but I think that decision was Howie Roseman motivated. That's what I think. Listen, man, this is like the days of our lives. You know what I mean? We gotta.
No.
This is like
the
Clue.
Days of our
find
lives.
the killer. This is the days of our lives. I like that. This is a General Hospital.
Tell Farzy to reconnect here. There you go.
There he is. We got him back. There he is.
I'll tell you. Wait, before I go to Farzy here, listen to this. I've heard a guy that's absolutely fed up with bullshit too. You should see his face in the post game now. This guy's on rants now. Mark Farcetta's on rants. This is bullshit. This thing sucks. This is spoken like an old school Philadelphia sports guy. Not one of these questions. So Nick, how is all of this taking its toll on you? I heard a morning guy ask Nick Sirianni, "Hey Nick, how is all of this taking its toll on you?" Hey dude, I don't give a fuck how Nick Sirianni feels. Win a game. How do you feel, Nick? Are you okay? I was like, that's sports talk in Philly? Then you turn on Farzetta. This sucks. No good. Everybody should be held accountable.
Oh man.
Let's bring in the Espresso King.